Hello, I am Cy Wakeman, and you're listening to A Shark's Perspective.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. I'm Kenneth Kinney, but friends call me Shark. I'm a keynote speaker, a strategist, a shark diver, host of this show, and your chief shark officer. How often do you get caught up in drama? How often do you see a snake, but it turns out to be a rope? Many people simply think a thought and believe it wholeheartedly, and often get caught up in their own beliefs that are often fueled by drama. Our guest today has research that shows that people spend roughly 2.5 hours a day caught up in drama rather than being productive. But leaders need to manage that drama as well as see reality for what it is. That being said, how often every day do you turn ropes into snakes? Life is messy, so in your own life, are you fueling drama or productivity? Cy Wakeman is a drama researcher and international leadership speaker, named a top global leadership guru by Global Gurus, a consultant, a New York Times bestselling author, and the author of Life's Messy, Live Happy. Things don't have to be perfect for you to be content. And on this episode, we'll discuss researching drama, better leadership, home at the beach, a messy life, 816 hours a year, the difference of a reality-based leader, and the lessons we've learned thus far, dissolving problems before solving problems, spirituality, grace, ego, where empathy and sympathy converge, something about a pack mule, nice whales and mean dolphins, social media versus cable news, and a lot more. So let's tune into a reality-based leader, speak with a shark who always finds his renewal with more time in the water on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Cy, welcome to A Shark's Perspective. Would you please give us a brief overview of your background and career to date?
Absolutely. I started out in college. I wanted to be to do economic development in third world countries. So I didn't end up there, but I did become a social worker and counselor, and from there managed healthcare entities. And during my time in helping people help our patients, I use the combo of my therapy and my leadership to give people a reality-based philosophy on how they can bring their most evolved self to work. So I've spent the last 25 years in leadership, creating great results and great work environments, and then teaching other people how to do the same.
And so you lived in Nebraska and Iowa, and you're in Baja, Mexico now. So what's living like at the beach? I've done it several times in my life. I pretty much feel like I'm there every day, but what's that like now for you with where you are in life? And also, what is it like for you as a speaker?
Absolutely. So I have found that the water is very restorative to me, and it's a place I naturally come to, whether it was intentional or not. I sometimes wake up and find myself at the water. And for me, the water is baptism. Sometimes I'm on my knees, wanting to be restored. Other times it just brings such good perspective and time out. But I absolutely love the water. I always feel renewed. And so I used to live on a lake. That was as close as I could get to the beach. And now I live every day looking out my front window at the beach. And I study and research drama in the workplace and energy that takes us away from results or well-being at work. And I think for me, the water is definitely a place where I can come and really be completely in nature, completely away from any type of drama or emotional waste. So it's very sacred to me.
Yeah, same here. It may not be for everybody, but if you would put a cubicle with a view of the ocean, the lack of stress that companies would have to deal with would be unfathomable. But it's great for mental health. I love the quote in your book that we're going to talk about as well. But in your newest book, Life's Messy, Live Happy, Things Don't Have to Be Perfect for You to Be Content. You talk about, I've come back to the water because once again, my life is messy. So talk about where your life was messy to where you got to write this book.
Sure. The different times I've been at the water, it's kind of my place I come to surrender. So when I've tried my way and I've tried to muscle it through and pass the test and do really well, I have found myself at the water. In my 20s, I was homeless. and lived in a pup tent for quite a few months at the edge of the Yankton Reservoir. And most recently, I've made many trips back to the water, but most recently, around the time of COVID, I had found out that my husband was leaving our marriage. The business, we're in speaking, you're in speaking, I'm in speaking, had completely stopped. Millions of dollars of bookings canceled
No,
overnight.
you're kidding. I'd not
Yeah.
heard that at all.
The stock market crashed. I had actually come down here because my nephew in late February had been killed in a horrible car accident. And I thought I'll just get through the funeral and get his mom and my family kind of in shape and come down and just spend a couple days at the water. And I came down to recover from that death, just to kind of get my head on straight. And that's when I found out that the business was gone, the stock market had crashed. I actually was stranded here on the ocean, looking at the ocean for 3 months during COVID. We were locked down here in Mexico, and even walking the beach, there were armed guards on the beach. But I learned enough Spanish to ask for grace, like at least let me walk the beach. And I spent probably 6 months walking 5 to 6 miles a day at the water's edge, grieving, crying, and in pure bliss. Like the water it restored me. But I remember the feeling that both thrilled and concerned me when everything was gone and my team said there's no reason to come back. In fact, you can't get back. You are there on your own, completely alone, time out, sabbatical. I remember the poem Barn Burnt Down, Now I Can See the Moon. And it was just another reminder that I need to surrender and not acquiesce, but surrender and participate and trust the process and know that I get myself where I need to be and that I have everything I need. And it really taught me the lesson at that moment of my life that my favorite word of that time was enough. I have enough. And I want to make sure I'm loving other people so in a way they know what they're enough. And it was just a really good rebirth that this seems to have lasted now longer than other rebirths at the water have lasted.
You know what I admire, knowing your background and then having read the book and then seeing you speak again just a couple of months ago at National Speakers Association, where you gave a killer performance at Influence 2022, was that you kind of open up, if you will. There's a lot of people who have a facade as leadership speakers and nothing is messy. Yeah. And you open everything up, talking just as you did. You talk about your being homeless, your divorce, going through issues with, I believe his name was Joe, and the fictional name you gave for an old boyfriend with drug usage and everything else. And you just kind of open that up. And it seems so often that people are afraid to, maybe not afraid, but they just don't want to open that up. So I'm kind of curious, when you went through the process of thinking through, I'm going to tell all of my story without it being just a trauma dump, how do you think that really helps you become a better leader?
Well, I think, first of all, my publisher during COVID asked me, people talk about how your work helps them at home and at work. Can you write a book telling people how to live at home in their personal lives? And my full body response was absolutely not. I'm not going to write a book telling people how to live. I'd be willing to write a book telling people how I've lived. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I've been known for on stage is it is so easy to put out their advice for others and to critique external situations. In fact, it's so easy to take and intellectualize your own feelings or your own grievances. And that's all work of the ego. And that happens to be, I research drama. I talk to people about how to bypass the ego. And for me, I've been known for years to really walk with the message that we all have this human condition. We all have a low self and a high self. Our whole goal in life is to evolve ourselves internally, forge that wisdom through contemplation and self-reflection and spiritual practice and dedication, so that we can walk through the world more skillfully. Because the goal in walking through the world is to love big. And we can't love big if we haven't done our own work as a leader, and we can't do it skillfully if we haven't done that work. And so when I started to write, I really wanted the book not to be a trauma dump, or I didn't want to tell other people's stories about what they had done to me. I tried to be very clean in the book about the lessons I learned about me in the midst of others doing what others do. Because the main message I wanted to give people is life's messy, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to wait until you've figured it out, or you can pass the test, or you move through perfectly. Like, the living is in the mess. The living is being willing, as Brown talks about, out there, to be vulnerable and be in the mess. Some people try and clean up their life before they live. Other people think they're a self-help project and try and improve themselves before they live. But it's only meeting in the middle, when an imperfect me meets a really imperfect world, that we're living in 3D, that we're living the full spectrum of life. And I just wanted to invite people, by my example, to live the full spectrum and to normalize the fact that a lot of speakers talk about having mastery. And that's only half a life. When COVID hit, people are like, I'm going to go out and speak on, how to hold a Zoom meeting. And I'm going to tell people what they need to do in these times. And I'm like, these are unprecedented times. I'm going to, instead of having impact in the world, let myself be impacted by the world. Instead of mastery, I want to sit in the mystery and allow what needs to be undone about me to be undone. And a lot of us move through the world so guarded that we won't allow ourselves to be evolved and grown and softened by what's happening to us. And I wanted to go first, if that helped other people.
Well, and we get so caught up in just looking at the packaging. It's why I often talk about, if you dive deeper, and if, everybody sort of thinks themselves as the next Tony Robbins. And if you go back and you look at Tony's own journey, his life was a complete mess. He opens it up if you dive deeper and listen to him. But I think so many people just think they can, to your point, intellectualize something and then give advice for everybody else. But I know
you're in marketing. I think that's crappy brand work.
Oh, absolutely.
To be honest, because we've gone beyond that. Like, we want brands that are socially responsible, and we want brands that are transparent and honest. And, if you screw up, you screw up, and you come to that. So, I mean, if you look at from a branding perspective, I've never said I have the answers. I've always said I have some ideas. I try and approach that with a lot of self-reflection. And I just want to normalize for people that not one of us has the answer, but collectively we're genius. And if we can just turn towards one another and collaborate together, we'll be okay. But our current way through the world, where everyone has a master and everyone has an answer, and we just shout it at each other in the wind, isn't producing kind solutions that include all people.
Well, you talk a lot about being a drama researcher. And again, I know I've read this in the book and saw you give this speech on stage, but if you could tell a quick version, if you will, about what happened on the mountain with the rope and the snake.
Sure. So I was involved in studying how the mind works in psychology, and thinking these universal principles and how we could use them in the workplace. So I studied emotional waste, how much energy is diverted from results and happiness at work. And while I was intellectually studying these things, I just learned firsthand the power of our thoughts left unquestioned. So one of the cool things that I get to do, and I love to do, is experiential learning. So you're a diver. I like taking people hiking or out of their element, whether it's in the water. Even snorkeling for some people is just a really mind-blowing experience. And then we talk about leadership, and we use metaphor of hiking and apply that to how we lead. So I have this beautiful team out on a mountain. We've had great 10 miles. We're talking a lot about leadership. We're getting really deep, and we stopped for a break. And I'm looking out of the valley, and it just hits me on a cellular level how grateful and fortunate I am. I'm thinking, I can't believe they pay me to do this job. My reality was I'm with amazing leaders. I'm doing a job of my dreams. I'm in heaven. And I go to lead the group on, and out of the corner of my eye, I see something pretty big, but squiggly up on the path. And in a single thought, snake, I noticed I went from heaven to hell. I went from, I can't believe they pay me to do this job, to they do not pay me enough to do this job. Yeah. And I went from bliss and gratitude, literally, if I die in this moment, I am good, to I don't want to die, and I'm hyperventilating, and I'm imagining the snake biting me and being life flighted up the mountain, and I'm scrambling for solutions and wondering if people will help me if I get bit. And I'm just like, it's so frustrating. I can't even remember how to save myself. I'm like, all I can remember is a John Wayne movie that when he got bit, he took out a pocket knife and cut like an X in his hand and sucked his blood. I'm thinking, I'm going to have to do this to save myself. And all the calories I burned, all the panic, all the losing track of how blissful my life is. And I get closer to that squiggly thing. And it wasn't a snake at all. It was a rope off someone's saddlebag. And that brought home the lesson, like how often every day I turn ropes into snakes with thinking a thought and believing it like wholeheartedly. And that really gave birth to a lot of my wanting to quantify how often do we do this? And the answer is 2.5 hours a day. The average person suffers needlessly 2.5 hours a day. Suffering comes from the story they've added to a rope lying on the ground. And I'm thinking about my death and hoping my kids will know that I love them.
Well, and you describe it, I was trying to look it up, as feeling like not just trauma, but feeling like you needed to pee like a pack mule, which I love. So I thought that was great.
Yes, I'm scared. My first thing, I don't know if people relate to this, is I always have to like pee. I'm like, shit, and now I have to pee.
Well, I don't even know that I've ever seen a pack mule pee, but now I can visually.
You have a visual.
I can think of it.
You'll know it's exactly. A lot and it's fierce.
If I ever see a pack mule pee, I'm going to go, Cy Wakeman told me about that in that chapter. Yeah. So, but where did you come up with the 2.5 hours?
So what I then did was, so many organizations were involved in Lean and Six Sigma, and they were able to isolate even just a few minutes in a process that they could determine was waste. And they had a scientific way. If it's waste, then we improve a process, we eliminate waste. And I was involved with a lot of counselors and therapists. I'm on the side of science. I'm the girl who likes to quantify. I want to know ROI. I'm the first person to ask, will this training change anything in my business? And show me. And so I thought, if I could contribute to the field an actual quantification of how much time we spend in drama, that would be fascinating. So I partnered with the Futures Company out of Chicago, and we came up first with survey instruments where we had people identify and answer questions about their day and the types of behavior they found themselves involved in, ego behavior and venting, tattling, scorekeeping, meetings after the meetings. And then we asked leaders questions about not only themselves, but how much time they spend tending to things like this, coming through their open door. And through a series of points of validation, we saw just a very tight range. It was a really shocking discovery that good performers, hardworking people, spend on average 2.5 hours a day. Now they're still working, but they're working with a grudge. They're working thinking, I'll get this done, but I shouldn't have to. And they should have given me the information earlier. And this is a last minute request. And so it's working with joy or misery, your choice. And knowing that suffering is optional, I really wanted to get down to 816 hours per head count in an organization adds up to a crap load of productivity. But it's also time people spend suffering needlessly. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, if I could get to the sources of drama and look at whether traditional leadership methods fuel drama or diffuse them, are they actually working? And what I found out is most of what you were taught over the past 20 years actually fuels drama. It's codependent. It's not shared accountability. And not only does it fuel drama, it's not good on productivity, but it also is hard on people's engagement and how they feel about their workplace. So I started to then modernize leadership philosophies for each source of drama and teach people not to throw out what they've learned, but how to modernize it for today's world and how to share accountability instead of being patriarchal or directive or managerial as the leader. And it really just opened up creativity and innovation. It really helped people take that energy they've been wasting in drama and focus on why we can't, shouldn't have to what if we could and how could we? And we started to see leaders help hope make a comeback and people experience post-traumatic growth and that our outcomes weren't predetermined by our circumstances. And it just helped people really elevate how they move through the world. It helped them get skilled up in a way that not others were focusing on. So it was kind of accidental in a lot of ways when I started that research. And as happens, it just got carried away. And now it's been really landmark for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, and you said it was 2.5 hours a day, 17 hours a week, 816 hours.
16 hours a year.
Well, so ironically, you may have seen this in your research. You know what just about the average amount of time people spend on social media a day now?
Is that the same? I didn't see that.
It's just under 2 hours. I actually looked it up because when I was kind of getting ready for this and thinking about your speech, I Googled it and found several different surveys. And I think the US was a little over 2, India was 2.5, Philippines were like close to 4, and Nigeria was at just over 4 as well. And I found that very ironic that they kind of mirror, because there's a lot of drama and trauma on
there is drama on social media. However, I would say it depends on how you curate your feed.
True, very true. And
because
your community.
I would tell you that I have I'm grateful and I've been successful, but also very intentional. When I get on my Instagram, it is like great group therapy. Like I get just beautiful ideas on how to connect into the world. You know, we will find, if you're in drama, you will find a place to exercise that. So now that many people are working from home, did drama decrease? And I said, no, because you took you home with you, and drama is more about how you see the world. Now, did some other things decrease? Like people of color reporting that they feel safer because they aren't microaggressed all the time? Yeah. Did productivity increase for some because of their increased flexibility? Yes. But we don't think that drama decreased all that much.
Yeah, just don't follow any political hashtags.
Yeah.
That'll help remove some drama.
Well, where we're at politically really is a common way that people deal with stress. Cognitive dissonance is oversimplifying when many things can be true at the same time, oversimplifying it to really black and white and polarized answers. Mm-hmm. And, I see our polarization right now, a very typical way that humans toggle down and see the world through ego. It's understandable. I have compassion for it. I hope we don't have tolerance for it. So I hope that our tolerance level brings us to bring people back together.
As a leader, kind of explain as well, because I heard you do this on stage, where empathy and sympathy kind of converge and butt heads as well.
You're a good student. Empathy. So when people come to us, we want to greet them with empathy. So I tell people, don't match other people's energy. Come in, if they're coming in hot and urgent, come in neutral, kind, caring, loving, and greet them with empathy, not sympathy. And a lot of people don't know the difference. So a lot of people are greeting people with sympathy right now, which reinforces their victim mindset. So if someone comes to me upset, sympathy is, I see you're struggling. That's where empathy starts. We both of them are, I see you struggling. But sympathy goes on to, And I agree with the sense you're making of your struggling, that you are the innocent victim and that reality should not be this way. And I reinforce that we're the victims of other people and the sense you made of that. And I collude with you, and I leave you believing that you should escalate anything that is a time when reality is not preferred because you aren't capable. Like, I reinforce just all that low level thinking. Empathy, I see you're struggling, and I follow that with a call to greatness. I validate your current feelings, but I don't go on to validate the sense you're making of your experience, that story. And instead, I ask you to question your thinking. What do you know for sure? And if you were great right now, what would great look like? And I provide leaders a lot of ways that they can call people up out of that sense of empathy rather than sympathy. And sympathy is a lot about colluding and a lot about reinforcing victim mindset and a lot about blaming our circumstances or other people for our success or lack of success. And our circumstances aren't the reasons we aren't succeeding. They're the reality in which we must succeed. And a lot of folks are focused on what circumstances need to be different. And the reality is, it is what it is right now. We need to figure out, given where we're at, how we could move forward differently.
How does a reality-based leader differ from what we typically think of, the lessons we hear about leadership in general? And I know that's not only the name of your business, reality-based leadership, but also I know it's sort of a methodology and philosophy as well.
So one, we help people see reality for what it is with clarity and out the distortion that our ego brings to it. So most of the time we see fact plus story, and our suffering comes from the story. Our stress comes from the story. Pain's inevitable, disruption happens, but we help people see things for what they really are and focus on what's relevant and not bring in all the irrelevant. So the first thing we ask people to do is dissolve problems before you solve problems, because a lot of what you've added into the issue isn't reality. And then we ask modern leaders, if you're reality-based, to help people see reality for what it really is, and then have them come at it with their best selves. And many people preach, leadership is motivating and inspiring another person. And it's not. Inspiring, in spiritu, the Latin word, is to breathe. I can't breathe for you. It's not sustainable. You need to bring your own motivation. I can give the same talk. Some are motivated, some not. Same talk. So true leaders help people diffuse their drama, their emotional waste, by facilitating good mental processes. If the way we get rid of waste is a process, the way we get rid of emotional waste is a mental process. Leading contemplation and self-reflection, using personal accountability. And so modern leaders move through the world very differently. They greet people's struggle with facilitating self-reflection and question, asking them to bypass the ego and tap into all of their intelligence. The power of a modern leader isn't what you tell people, it's what you get them thinking about. Modern leaders don't manage people, they manage the energy of people, away from why we can't to how we could. It's a very different set of competencies than we're normally teaching. Most teaching focuses on people coming in to complain about reality, and the leader's job is to go change reality. And I just haven't seen that very effective. Our circumstances usually are only about 10% of our general well-being and contentment. 40% comes from the amount of accountability you take for your circumstances. So if I'm your leader and you come in and you want me to change the world, I probably can't. And even if I could, that only gets us 10% happier. I would rather help you move into a place of accountability, and that will gain you 40%, and it's portable. It's something you can use in any circumstances to move through the world more skillfully.
Well, I like how you talk about translation, how leaders need to help translate. So a lot of times it's not even making that change, it's translating how to make that change. So
Yeah.
bad analogy of it. But, you talk about ego a lot, and, No Ego is a big hit. Life is Messy is a big hit. You're living the dream, if you will, sitting at the beach. You've talked about messy, but you're a very humble person. How do you sort of keep your own ego in check? Being a speaker, recognized as a top influencer, having a New York Times bestseller, that can make the head swell a little bit.
It can. I don't even know if I try to think about it that way to keep the ego in check. I try and have daily habits and dedications, not really disciplines, and practices where I'm a daily meditator. I read lots of spiritual teachers. I love poetry. Trying to stay in touch with, I'm part of a greater whole. I am, the toaster, the appliance, not the electrical supply. I need to plug in. I think if we are in touch with our own grief and our own pain and our own feelings, it helps us see, no matter what your success, you still say goodbye to your parents. No matter how often I walk on stage, no matter what they pay me, I still have an insecurity. What are people thinking, or will they like what I'm going to present? I think if you stay in touch with your internal world, you will keep things in perspective. And I also know, and I talked about this in the book, my gratitude practice, I used to practice being grateful for all the things I created. And I would just make a checklist, and it was almost telling the universe what I wanted more of, like what I wanted less of. And I was interviewed one day, and they're like, how did you create such success? That was the question they wanted to ask me. How did you know to zig when other people zigged? And when I really looked at my success, so much of it had been enabled by others. I had librarians that, when I didn't have books at home, let me take out higher than the limit of books to read. I had teachers at moments when my home life was really challenging that noticed and stepped in and invited me, to participate in other things. I used to tally up my gratitude list with an eye towards what I created. And this host kept pushing that. She's like, no, but what did you do? And I realized that I would have to rewrite history, be revisionist history, to say, I was such a smart 6-year-old that I went up to that teacher and I told them I needed attention. And that really kept me humble, because if I can identify, but for the grace of God go I, that all of these things landed on my table because I had access to something, that not only keeps me humble, but it informs where I can give next. I can give somebody else the same access that I was given. But I think a lot of people fool themselves through ego into thinking that anything they had, they played a bigger role in it than what they really did. I have food on my table because someone went out fishing today. I have appeared on this podcast because someone gave me the opportunity to speak at NSA, and you were gracious enough to say, let me lend you my platform and try and help people together. There just isn't anything I have done. There is a lot of things that, when given the opportunity, I showed up. Maybe that's what I've done. I've showed up most of the time and did my best. That's my contribution to the world.
It's amazing.
It's hard to brag about that.
Well, no, it's
Cy,
amazing.
what'd you do? I did my best.
Yeah, it's amazing how far humility can go. But unfortunately, the way that, and it's a tough thing for a lot of leaders today to really think through, is now with social media. It is turn the camera.
And I hear people all the I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say it's kind of turning the mirror away in seeing a different reality. And it's unfortunate because it's something that everybody will learn at some point. I just, you don't want to sound like the old person yelling at kids to get out of your yard, but with that kind of wisdom. But sometimes humility, you just wish people could learn a little humility a little faster, because it'll turn you into a much greater leader a lot more quickly.
It will. And the good news is if you don't actively learn it, life will bring it to you. So
yeah, exactly.
None of us get out of this life having aced the test and Yeah, that's super tricky. I get concerned at times where I see the ego getting bruised when we talk about privilege, and some people are like, "Well, I had it hard too." And I'm like, "Can we just call privilege that maybe you had fewer
Yeah.
barriers than somebody else had?" It's not a scorekeeping um, system, but for me, I just on a daily basis, I kind of focus my gratitude on um, what I have because of what others provided, and that gets humbling very quickly.
Yeah, there was a Kristen Wiig character who on Saturday Night Live who she used to always try to one up everybody on being a little bit better or a little bit worse. And I feel
Worse.
like everybody's kind of stuck in trying to be a little bit worse. And so you've got to feel more empathy for me because of that. So I
Yeah.
asked this of all my guests, and I've been diving in Baja. I love diving with sharks anywhere. I can't stand doing cage diving. And so Baja is a little more interesting because of the lack of clarity of the water compared to, the Caribbean. But what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Oh my gosh. So I know it's not a shark, but we call it whale shark. It's a fish. It's the
Whale
biggest
shark is
fish.
a whale shark is a
They
shark.
aren't really.
Yeah,
Is
they're
it a shark?
technically a
Okay, because
shark.
I
Yeah.
was told they aren't. Okay, if they're technically a shark, we live in the land of one of Jacques Cousteau's diving expeditions, and the whale sharks are the most. They're like
They're
huge,
absolutely
and
beautiful.
they're
Largest fish in the world.
okay. Maybe that's it. And they're almost like cuddly, and they're so gentle, and they'll just sit straight up and just let food come their way. And they're like meditative. I see them as like big meditative Buddhist monks swimming around in my backyard. And the reason I love them too is that when they come, it signals the time that all my kids and grandkids will come, because that's what we do yearly is we go out and swim with the whale sharks. It's like our thing we do to just be glad we're here.
Yeah, well, you talk about teaching humility, swimming with sharks on a regular basis. You tend to learn respect around the larger predatory sharks like great whites and tigers and
Yeah.
bulls and
Well,
things like
sharks
that.
won't hurt you. That's
But
why I like them.
whale sharks have an esophagus about the size of a quarter, but their mouth is massive, and it's the largest fish in the world, whereas a whale is the largest mammal in the world. So
Got it.
the whale sharks, though, are absolutely beautiful, especially the ones you find with the little dots when you can really see them at the maturity level. They're absolutely beautiful. So, well, Cy, it's that special time in the show where I ask everybody the 5 most interesting and important questions that they're going to be asked today. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Number 1, which is easier to adjust when you're training leaders, a young leader or an old leader?
An injured leader.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is whether you're young or old, the point at which your way didn't work is the time you're most open. I would say right now, young leaders are easier to train, and we just have to adjust our methods to collaborate with them rather than lecture to them.
Fair point. All right. Number 2, Mexico or the Midwest, and you can pick either one. Iowa, Nebraska, call either one home, but Mexico or the Midwest. I know Mexico's where you are today, but of the two
Oh,
places.
absolutely my home. Um, Absolutely my home. It's always for 30 years. My heart has been here. Every time I come here, which is regularly, it's where all the places I were that indicate to me they were not my home. A lot of my life, my heart was shattered, and all it was telling me is not here. This isn't your home.
Yeah.
And it just pushed me on. And I feel like I got pushed by the universe to the very perfect home place for me, which is Mexico.
So are you
I
a corn
love
tortilla
it.
gal or a flour tortilla gal?
I'm totally corn.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, which one is better for less drama in your life? Social media or cable news? As a drama researcher, this should be a good one.
Yeah, social media, because you can curate your own
Such a good
feed.
point. Yeah.
You have a co-creation there where when I turn on a cable news, I'm mad at everybody within minutes. I don't care what channel we're on. As a researcher, I'm like, this would not pass mustard.
Well, as a speaker, when I travel, I do have a theory that if the Democrats are in office, you always turn it to CNN or MSNBC when you're on the road. If a Republican's in office, you turn it to Fox. That way, you're going to have to deal with less stress when you watch them.
Oh yeah, because
Because
there's
they
more
always
approval
paint a
rather than
rosier picture.
critique.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it really
isn't
is.
that interesting?
All right, number 4, because I've heard you talk about both whales or dolphins.
Oh, whales.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely whales. I love the playful dolphins, but I literally sit here in February where my eyes are and see the whales come and they bring their babies up to you and they'll push them up. Baja has friendlies. We don't know why they do this, but probably how they were raised. There are places where the whales they bring their babies up to show you in the boats. I've been 5 feet from baby whales' eyes that their mom is bringing them up to like show them humans on the
Dolphins
boat.
aren't nearly as friendly as they get pegged.
Yes,
They're a lot
they're
meaner than people know, and
they're aggressive.
they are aggressive. All right, number
I've
5.
also been hit while diving by a dolphin, like
Oh yeah.
just come up and got like slapped. So
Oh, absolutely. No, they're everybody. There was too many people watch Flipper and Jaws, and that's their opinion of dolphins and sharks. All right, number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today: biscuits or cornbread?
Oh, I'm such a biscuit girl. I grew up on sausage, gravy, and biscuits. I made that every Saturday for my kids. I'm total biscuit girl.
Absolutely.
I love these.
Nothing.
You have to come dive with me, Kenneth.
Absolutely. Well, as long as you got biscuits and gravy down there too.
I do.
That's
I'm excited. Almost
biscuits and gravy is pretty much
morning.
my last meal on earth. I want biscuits and gravy. So
well, you're gonna love mine because I make them really good.
Awesome. Cy, where can people find out more about you, keep up with what you're doing, get a copy of the book and more?
Absolutely. We love connecting with people on LinkedIn. It's Cy Wakeman. We also have a great newsletter. We try and be out on social. The algorithms change a lot. realitybasedleadership.com/newsletter. Sign up. We don't sell you stuff. We give you fabulous content that you can share with all the people you're leading. And then anywhere on social at Cy Wakeman, we're glad to have you. And my podcast is called the No Ego Podcast.
Awesome. Cy, thank you so very much for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thank you, Kenneth. Such a wonderful invitation.
So there was my conversation with Cy Wakeman, a drama researcher and international leadership speaker, named a top global leadership guru by Global Gurus, a consultant, a New York Times bestselling author, and the author of Life's Messy. Live happy. Things don't have to be perfect for you to be content. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from our conversation with her. First, think about the power of a place, not necessarily an exact address, but a place where you can go to get away from the drama. For many people, they don't have that place, even in their minds, because they're lost. But she went through a divorce and lost a nephew in a car accident. She wasn't looking for 123 Ocean Avenue, but she knew the place where she would want to find her renewal. I love it when she said, "I've come back to the water because my life is messy." And for a shark like me, that's where I find my renewal every time I jump in the water and swim with sharks. The beach is my happy place too. If you could truly find that place of your own, wherever it is, underwater, on a mountain, or just at home, find the moment where you're happy and let go. Enjoy the present of being present, and it feels like a baptism if you live in the present and can help you stay away from some of the drama. Home is where her heart is. I hope that you found your own home too. Second, a lot of leaders wear a facade. Loved her point on this. In order to bypass the ego, evolve yourself and forge that wisdom. She said we can't love big if we haven't done our own work, and that is true. Life is messy. It isn't perfect. And my goodness, the last few years have been anything but perfect. They've been new for everyone. And when times are unprecedented, don't anoint yourself as a superhero. People need you to be a leader, not look like one. Dive deeper and don't focus only on the packaging of you as a leader. As she said, the living is in the mess. Third, 816 hours a year, people suffer needlessly from drama. That's what her research shows. That's tough and such a waste of fuel, if you will, for what fuels you. As she said, a lot of what you do fuels drama, and that hurts on so many levels. Less drama means you move through the world more productively and with more focus, and with what's more important, or at least not letting the less important hold you back. 2.5 hours a day is too much. I personally don't think it's a coincidence. The time we spend each day with drama, as she refers to it, on average is near to the time we spend on social media. But to her point, make sure to curate a good feed, at least that helps you. Make it therapeutic, if you will, as you curate a great community. And then whenever you can, put the phone down. Turn off the apps and go to the beach, even figuratively. Look out into nature. You can find a lot of peace looking outward to the world instead of always looking at your selfie on the phone. And a plus, there's no filters needed at the beach or in the water. God gave us those free with nature. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time, and I'm thankful that you had the chance to listen. There but for the grace of God go I, and amen to that. I hope that you'll join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.